Today I'm going to demonstrate how to write an introduction to a persuasive essay. However, this can also be used for any essay. Current research shows that it is very difficult to persuade someone once their beliefs have become entrenched. Oftentimes, the more you try to persuade them, the less they are persuaded. This is because it is no longer about the truth, but about being right. There is a very nice video at YouTube on the science of persuasion if you just search for it. First, remember that you are persuading someone who disagrees with you. You're not preaching to the choir. In other words, you're not trying to convince people that already agree with you because they already agree with you. Second, audience is very important. You need to know who you are trying to persuade. If you're trying to persuade a science teacher, then facts and evidence are more important. If you're trying to convince tradition-oriented Midwesterners, you'll want to convince them that you're like them and that you see their point of view. Here, the Socratic method works well. You start with something both sides can agree on and move forward from there. For example, if you're trying to persuade people that we should keep abortions legal, you might want to start with stating that you want to reduce the number of abortions being performed each year and move into pointing out that even when abortions were illegal, women still got them. If you are writing about guns, you might want to point out that even Gandhi understood that people have the right to self-defense. Another way of persuading someone is to use a yes-but introduction. In this introduction, you start by simply agreeing with the other side's point of view, and then point out that they are wrong without directly saying so. For example, let's say you are writing an essay persuading a politician that people on welfare should not be drug tested. You might start like this. Every year, some hardworking Americans give up a portion of the money they earn in the form of taxes. These taxes are used in various programs to help those less fortunate or who have fallen on hard times, such as when my grandfather abandoned my grandmother, mom, and aunt for another woman, leaving them without an income or home. It's important for taxpayers to know that those using their hard-earned dollars are being held accountable and that they aren't spending the money on illegal drugs. However, other states have already tried drug testing people on welfare, and it has been a failure for several reasons. As you can see, I start the introduction by acknowledging the fears that many taxpayers have about how the money they have earned is spent, but then point out that other states have already tried this and that it was a failure. The money spent trying to catch people was substantially more than the money saved catching the very few. There is one last aspect to writing essays that requires persuasion. Let's say you are writing an essay about something technical, which can seem pretty boring at times. You'll want to use the introduction to persuade the reader to continue reading. This is the type of introduction you might use when writing about logical fallacies or definitions. For example, let's say I'm writing about the split attention effect. You might not know why this is an important definition, so I will need to tell you why it is, and in so doing persuade you to keep reading. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 3,477 people died in 2015 from distracted driving. If you want to see the individual horrors of distracted driving, simply go to Google News and type "died texting and driving" into the search box and see the list of children, teenagers, and pregnant women who were killed because someone decided that some texted comment was more important than the lives of those around them. These drivers thought, mistakenly, that they could mentally do two things at the same time. Usually this involves driving and doing something else, like using their phone. If they had understood the split attention effect, they may have learned that you can't do two things mentally at the same time and prevented these 3,477 tragedies.